As we see fans filing in for the game, we've learned the owner of the Panthers is securing police protection for this event and Panthers games, potentially at the expense of coverage for the rest of the city.
Yeah, that event security is leaving parts of Charlotte with fewer officers to respond to calls. WCNC Charlotte's Nate Morabito discovered there's a simple solution, and it all comes down to cash. So Nate's asking, where's the money?
Ideally, officers would volunteer for the stadium detail as an extra job, but some officers say the pay David Tepper's company is offering is so low, it's not worth their trouble, so they're not volunteering. As a result, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department is making dozens of on-duty officers fill in the gaps. Next time you watch a football game in person or on TV, look at all of the CMPD officers scattered inside and outside the stadium. Then consider this. At that very moment, some of those officers were originally assigned to be working in other parts of the city. If CMPD is pulling officers from my division, I'm concerned about my public safety.
If they're getting pulled for these events, they're not in your community patrolling right now. Julian Ortiz is the spokesperson for the Fraternal Order of Police. The organization represents officers who work for the short-staffed police department. We already have limited numbers of officers in specific areas, and if we continue to pull officers to cover these events, you have less officers. I mean, the math is pretty clear. CMPD records show the department reassigned 82 officers from its 13 patrol divisions for the Panthers' first home preseason game and 74 officers for the second. Ahead of the August 21st game, an email from one CMPD division warned looking for volunteers before voluntold are selected. Internal records show leading up to the Duke's Mayo Classic, CMPD needed to recruit more than 200 officers to work in and around the stadium. If the pay was higher, we wouldn't have this problem. But that is down to the Panthers and the stadium. The minimum pay for off-duty CMPD volunteers is $42 an hour. But businesses have the option to pay more, and records show some do. There's other off-duty jobs that pay $60 to $65, which are more worth your time. Ortiz says that's why volunteers are passing on the Panthers, and CMPD is requiring existing staff to work in their place. Does that create less police protection for the rest of the city? CMPD wouldn't talk about this in an interview, so we questioned a spokesperson during the weekly virtual press conference.
We don't expect any kind of lapse in coverage or service provided to the community during those events.
In a statement, CMPD told us despite the reassignments, all of the department's patrol divisions met the department's standard staffing levels. Adding, data indicates that there was no service impact involving delayed response times for emergency calls for service.
Our response times on those days were the same as they have been on, we'll call it a non-game day.
Even so, the agency says it recognizes the impact reassignments have on officer wellness, involving schedule changes, planned days off that are canceled, and requiring officers to manage an extra workload. Pulling these officers just creates this huge issue with safety and also officer fatigue. The FOP and police chief are set to meet Friday to talk this through. CMPD says the Panthers reimburse the city for every reassigned officer at that minimum $42 an hour rate. A Bank of America Stadium spokesperson declined comment. Nate Morabito, WCNC Charlotte.